Well, welcome everybody to our Monday morning after Oscars 2022 slugfest. You've got several of the Gold Derby team here. I'm Chris Beachum, managing editor. And then we've got senior editors Marcus Dixon, Daniel Montgomery, Denton Davidson. None of us, I think, got much sleep because we've been working on Oscars for weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months. So let's talk about, well, let me say, first of all, well, welcome everybody. In the 20 years we've been doing a prediction center, and we've got the best prediction center anywhere in the world, all the way from the day we launched back in July to the very, very end. We had 9,500 people predicting around the world, which is not a record, but it was like 200, 300 more than last year. So that's very good. We had only had one perfect score ever. And last night we had a tie for 9 people getting a perfect score. I had my best score ever. I got 21 out of 23. Daniel also got 21 out of 23. I don't think Marcus didn't want to talk about that as much.
I'm so happy for you.
Well, the ones where let's talk about that for just a second, then we'll talk about the ceremony. The ones where I came down to, either R's, A's, B's, was probably like 7, 8 categories. And I just threw the darts right in all but 2. One, nobody hardly in the world got right, which was animated short, which went to the windshield wiper. I believe out of our 9,500, I say nobody hardly, not like 900 out of the 9,500. So less than 10% got that right. I was looking through the experts. There were 30 experts and 13 editors, and I don't think any of the 43 I just mentioned got that right. Of course, the 9 people did. And I was looking at some of the people right below the 9 people, and in almost every case, the ones that got 22 out of 23 right, all missed windshield wipers. So that one was a surprise, although it was second in our prediction center. And then editing, as we all knew, was very, very tough. And it really could have gone to any of those 5 films, but it went to Dune. Was there a category, we'll start with Denton, that you were either thrilled you got right because of who won, or thrilled you got right because it was so difficult?
I was thrilled for Jessica Chastain because I think a lot of people were ready for a Penelope Cruz upset. And that was sort of a late breaking, weird trend in just the last 4 days, where all these people sort of were just jumping on this bandwagon, and it was really based on secret ballot votes. It really didn't have any logic behind it. So I was kind of happy to see people go off that cliff without me. But in general, my score was awful because I think, I was trying to get a little too cute. And when in retrospect, I think this year was more predictable than we thought. We thought it would be total chaos, but it ended up being a little predictable. I thought more things would go for Power of the Dog and things would get more traditional, but it was a Dune technical sweep, and the acting categories went 4 for 4 with SEG. So it was, not as surprising as I was thinking some things might be.
Which means we'll all remember that next year, and then they will go to chaos because we'll be all on the front runners. Daniel?
Yeah, I was, I after the pre-show awards, I was like, okay, I'm 7 for 8. I missed windshield wiper, but I got all the other ones, and I was like, okay, this is either the moment where, like, am I gonna have another Birdman year where I get all but one right? But then I was like, yeah, but the screenplay categories might screw me over. Best actress might throw me off. Best song did end up throwing me off. It was one category I went on a limb for Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I went against the odds. And that bit me. But yeah, everything that felt close, I just kind of landed on the right side of it. And it felt like it was on the safe side of it mostly. Like most of the people who I was like leaning towards that felt close were the front runners. So it was interesting for a night as with winners as weird as this. It's weird that it was this predictable. Like to think of Coda sweeping 3 for 3, picture, adapted screenplay, supporting actor, no directing, editing nomination, Power of the Dog only winning best director. Like those results are so weird to have been so predictable.
And Marcus?
I think you buried the lead a little. You mentioned Gold Derby's Prediction Center, but we got 22 out of 23 at the Prediction Center. If you had just gone by our odds, you would have been, in almost first place in our Prediction Center. I think only one of our freelancers, Sam Ekman, got 22 out of 23. So congrats to him. But the one Gold Derby missed was animated short, and that was in second. So kudos to our users, because a lot of the editors were kind of scattered. Some of our editors were scattered, but the users for the most part knew what they were doing. And I'm going to remember this next year. I'm not going to go on as many limbs as I did this year, like the Penelope Cruz and the editing for King Richard. I am really just going to take a look at what the odds are predicting next year, because I need to do better.
Let me say about Lin-Manuel, we love him at Gold Derby. He's done many chats with us. He's one of the greatest people, it seems like, in the whole entertainment world. Once it was announced that he had a family member that was sick, and he, out of caution, was not going to attend, I was sort of rooting that he didn't get his EGOT last night. I would look, he's an actor, director, writer, songwriter, producer. He's going to be back at the Oscars a few times. This is all he needs to get the EGOT. I would rather see that happen on stage. So it was nothing against you, Lynn. I picked No Time to Die, and they won. But I want to, and I think deep down, you wanted to accept your EGOT at some point in your career on stage. One of my favorite wins, and I actually got it right, and screenplays were very difficult. I don't know how so many of us got that particular combination right, but I'm thrilled for Kenneth Branagh. He personally had, 3 nominations this year: producing, directing, writing. That brought his career total up to 8. Such a stand-up guy, such a great career. His very first film got him 3 nominations way back, over 30 years ago. So I was thrilled for him. That's a really great win, I think, for the Academy. What did you all think about, beyond your own predictions, was there somebody like that I felt so great for Kenneth Branagh to get a win? Daniel?
I would say a couple. Even though I got it wrong, I was incredibly happy for Billie Eilish and Phineas, who I've been fans of on the music side, and they could be collecting more hardware in 6 days at the Grammys, where they both have multiple nominations. So I was really happy to see that. Billie Eilish, the first person born in the 21st century to win an Oscar, which was an exciting moment. She was born in 2001, and she is 20 years old. Yes, we all feel old.
But you know what? In the red carpet and in the performance, and then their reaction in the audience, and then their speech, both of them, as young as they are, I really felt like they knew the history. They felt the gravity. It really meant a lot to them, whereas some young people, they might not even know, what the Oscar world is all about.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I love Beyonce, but when Billie Eilish and Phineas performed No Time to Die on that stage, I was like, oh, why did I predict Lin-Manuel Miranda? Such a good performance. I think that was the best musical number of the entire night, even though Beyonce had an entire production number.
Both Encanto performances I didn't think were very good, and that's Disney is ABC, and that's their it should have been showcases, but anyway, didn't particular favorite just because you wanted to see it?
I just wanted to piggyback on that and say it, I'm not the hugest Billie Eilish fan. She's a lot younger than I am, but I agree that I've loved her performance, and I wasn't even that big of a fan of the song. I did predict it, but for me, that performance was by far the best of the night. And I did like seeing Coda win. It's fun to see that reaction, even though it was a surprise that wasn't a surprise. It still, felt like an underdog moment. You see the whole audience doing this. I mean, it's just kind of nice to see that happening and end on somewhat of a high note for the evening.
Hey, Marcus.
Yeah, I wrote this in The Good, Bad, and Ugly last night. My favorite movie of the year was Coda, and it never matches. My favorite movie of any given year never matches with the Oscars. So I had to do a double take last night. Like, did they just say Coda? Like, is it the first time ever that my favorite movie actually won? I couldn't believe it. It was a perfect way to end the evening, especially because something, kind of controversial happened earlier. And I'm glad we're focusing on the awards and not talking about the controversy, because it really did put a damper on things. But to end with Coda, I'm still smiling.
And I'm glad Sean Hayter won, because this was a passion project for her. She's been in the industry a while, mainly working on television, and she somehow was not a producer. So had it won, say, Picture and Troy, she would have been left out in the cold without an Oscar. And so I'm glad she won that screenplay award.
Especially because her biggest competition in that category was Jane Campion, and we all knew Jane was going to win director. So I'm glad that they kind of split. Those two ladies both got something.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting the history that made, because like that whole head-to-head was so unusual, but like we got the third woman ever to win Best Director in Jane Campion, and the third woman ever to have directed a Best Picture winner in Sean Hayter and Coda, even though she wasn't nominated for directing it. So that's and as her screenplay win, I think she's the first solo female screenwriter to win adapted screenplay since Emma Thompson, maybe, unless I'm forgetting someone. So I'm really happy for her.
Well, and I was just updating the different galleries we have for the histories of the 90 plus years, and it's been a while since a white man has won director.
Yeah, it's been very I think Damien Chazelle is the only one maybe in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's talk about the ceremony. Marcus just brought up kind of the elephant in the room, which we're not going to spend much time on. You've seen people dissect this on Twitter, on social media, on our website, on other slugfest. I hate that it happened with the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. It, as much for me that there were several more things to follow for the ceremony, and I just feel like it derailed the joy in the room for anybody else that came up to either present or accept an award. And the memoriam was after that too. So I think people were in the room like buzzing, and not even paying attention to the fact that we needed to respect and honor, 40, 50 people who had passed away in the last year. But, what's a reaction here from anybody?
I just think it was sad for Will Smith. I mean, this is going to be what people remember about his Oscars. They're not going to remember that he won. This is the moment that everyone's going to be talking about. And I just think that's disappointing for him. And it was just uncomfortable to watch. Even his acceptance speech, it went on so long. At some point I started feeling like anxious, like I shouldn't be watching this anymore. I felt like I was sort of watching someone unravel. And I felt bad for him in the whole situation.
Yeah, in 94 years, the Academy has never had to release a statement saying we do not condone violence. Like, that's never a good thing if you have to actually report that in the press. But they kind of did condone violence. Like, they let him stay in the theater, and they gave him a standing ovation, which I thought was a little over the top. But yeah, overall it was so gross. It was probably the grossest moment I've ever seen on the Oscar stage.
And it was uncomfortable and it was unfortunate. I think Chris Rock, who has, I still remember when he last hosted the Oscars, he made a joke, because Jada Pinkett put out a statement saying, like, I'm boycotting the Oscars because at the time, it was one of those Oscars so white years. And Chris Rock joked about her on the Oscar stage saying, you weren't even invited anyway, you can't boycott, basically. And now just to make a, haha, you're bald joke, it was in poor taste of him. I think Will Smith handled it about as badly as anyone could humanly possibly handle it. I feel like he handled his speech as well as anyone could have under those circumstances. And I know it will not go away this moment, but I would be happy to put it by.
Well, let's talk about the ceremony. I mentioned before, and I've said this every year, but I'm just so passionate about Oscars and Emmy ceremonies. I have a collection of them that I've recorded all the way back to the 70s in both cases. And I go back and watch them, the nerd that I am, because I love the structure. And that's why when people talk about, oh, so-and-so won, I hated that ceremony, or so-and-so lost. There's two aspects to a ceremony for me on the big shows, like the Oscars. One is, how did the producers execute or not execute the plan they had? Good plan or bad plan or boring or whatever. And then winners, losers, whatever happens, kind of a look at the ceremony. They can't control that necessarily. So let's talk about the way, what the producers put together. I was overwhelmingly happy with the three hosts. 90, I'd say 90% of the time. And I wasn't going in, not anything against any one of them individually. It's just none of them have ever really ever worked together before. I didn't see how the chemistry was going to be there. I didn't see how they were going to split up duties. I couldn't get the vision of these three. And it was not, again, nothing against any of the three of them. And they blew me away. The opening section, they had such chemistry. They ought to be in a buddy movie together. What did you think about that aspect, Daniel? Just the hosts.
I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the rest of the production. I feel like the one good decision that the production, made was hiring those three women. And I also went in very skeptical. Like you said, Chris, nothing against the three women individually, but it felt all kind of random when they announced that these three particular women would be hosting together. Like, why these three women? Like, why them as a group? Like, but the chemistry was on point. The jokes were really good, like most of the time. Even the bits that didn't quite work, they were still likable. They were still like, I still enjoyed watching them because they were just engendering such goodwill. So I really feel like the one slam dunk of this Oscars telecast was hiring those three.
Marcus, Denton, did you like the hosts?
Oh, I loved them. From the moment they all stepped on stage, I was also worried that they wouldn't have, chemistry per se, but they were all great together. They were great when they were doing solos. Amy Schumer's separate little monologue that was around the 20-minute mark, that was one of the best opening monologues of any award show I've seen in recent years. I loved how they said that the Golden Globes would be in the in memoriam because they were canceled. Wanda Sykes poking fun at Samuel L. Jackson. So many great, the Amy Schumer joke saying, I was taking off the Spider-Man costume. Did I miss anything? So many great moments. I'm so glad they took a risk on these three that didn't really have a lot to do with each other. And now that and it seems to have worked. So I hope they come back next year.
And
yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add. I thought they were great. I thought Amy Schumer, like Marcus said, her ability to roast people and kind of walk that line without going too offensive was brilliant. And
she didn't get slapped.
She didn't get slapped. So take notes, some people. It was a little Ricky Gervais-ish, but not so mean feeling. And maybe it's just her personality, but
and she also started with self-deprecation. Like, she opened by roasting herself, saying like, they call me in Hollywood, like, Melissa McCarthy said.
Yeah.
that was a great way to start.
I thought, all three of them put themselves down at some point or a little bit. And I thought that's important to do, because that puts the room in your favor whenever you do that. Politicians do that. If you ever go to like a corporate event, the speaker generally does that just to make the room feel more comfortable, because it takes a pretty large ego to stand on a stage and try to control a room. On the other end of the spectrum for me, and I wouldn't say other end, but like mediocre to lower level, I was concerned about the lack of star quality on the presenter list as we saw it, being developed and announced. And that turned out to be kind of the case for me. Too many attempts at trying to hit people in their 20s who really aren't going to tune in to see somebody on, present on the Oscars. I don't know how you line up the three sports guys to do a James Bond tribute. If there'd been like a sports movie this year, I'm not talking about King Richard, which is more a family movie, but like a sports movie and that, maybe they would have been introducing the clip for it or something. Maybe that would have been a way to have them on. I don't know. I liked the reunion ideas more than I didn't, especially Pulp Fiction. White Men Can't Jump. At least it was 30th, so that made sense. We were all clamoring for a Juno reunion, I'm sure. They get to do an award like screenplay. I mean, I know they won screenplay, but hey, I mean, bring Diego out with you, or not Diego, Diablo. She should have been part of the group if you're going to present screenplay. And then my least favorite thing at all award shows, just the random pairings of people. They don't know each other. They had to do that a few times too. So, but there were some brilliant things. I loved Ruth E. Carter, who's a Board of Governor member for the costume branch, presenting with Lupita, somebody she had worked with on Black Panther. But some of the others, I really didn't understand. Anybody have any thoughts about like the presenters? Any favorites?
I did like the reunion aspect, and for the most part, it worked. But a reunion is not 3 people. I mean, if you're getting a reunion, it needs to be 5 to 10 people on that stage. But overall, I liked it. I don't get the 3 sports guys. This is the Oscars. This isn't the I don't know, international sports Emmys.
And Sean Combs intros The Godfather 50th anniversary.
I did like how he said, I'm a huge movie fan, and I'm glad I'm here because I liked this movie, and that helped a little bit. But I don't know why he was the presenter for that.
That should have been everybody. Everybody who was willing to go. Talia Shire would have gone. That's Francis's sister. James Caan lives in LA. Duvall does not live in LA, but I think he would have. I mean, he's a past winner. I think he would have made the trip. Diane Keaton lives close to LA. I mean, why not have you bring 6, 7, 8 Godfather people out, and they were all the 3 of them. Not Coppola because he got to talk, but the other 2 looked so uncomfortable, and not because they were on a stage, but because they had nothing to do on the stage. They were just standing there.
Yeah, it was baffling to me. I thought the idea of the reunions was better than any of the execution. I actually thought the Juno one was the best because at least they were presenting an award that was relevant to their film. And also it was really exciting to see Elliot Page. I don't think he's made very many public appearances since he transitioned. So I was very happy to see him on that stage. But then you've got the White Men Can't Jump thing. That didn't go anywhere. The Godfather thing introduced by Diddy, that didn't go anywhere. Chris, you were mentioning, among the many missed opportunities you were mentioning last night, you've got the James Bond tribute and you don't transition into No Time to Die. You just kind of like shift that into later in the telecast. And so,
that would have been perfect. And I said in I don't know what made our live blog or not, but you got Judy Dench sitting right there, who has flown all the way from England,
so stupid,
knowing she was going to lose.
And Javier Bardem, I realized, because it could have been like a Skyfall reunion.
Yeah, and her category was first during the live show, so that means from that point forward, she had nothing to do but sit there. And this when you're planning too, so she would have been the perfect person to come out and say something about James Bond. And if you wanted to go in a direction of James Bond itself, I can't imagine, a Daniel Craig or a Pierce Brosnan or somebody wouldn't have wanted to be part of that introduction. Also, in the clip package, there's, 25 Bond films, so 25 songs, maybe 7 to 10 of them were excellent, and they only put 1. Now, Paul McCartney's Bond song was one of the best, but you only play 1 song. It got to the point, I don't know how long the clip package was, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. Because they were only featuring Paul McCartney, I thought, this thing's going to wrap and the curtain's going to go up and Paul McCartney's going to play this song. That's why they only chose 1 song to put in the clip package. But no, another opportunity lost.
Yeah, the James Bond whole montage felt a little underwhelming when it was over. And then
Didn't
Best
BAFTA
Picture-
just do that too?
Yeah. And then, and for Best Picture, you have Lady Gaga come out with Liza Minnelli.
Yes.
And that should have been a big moment, but you have Liza fumbling around. It's like, can you just like prepare her a little bit better? Like it was just a little bit uncomfortable for me until she finally got the envelope open and was like Coda, and then it was fun, but it was.
Well, we were lucky it was Lady Gaga because there's maybe one person out of 100 among like actors and singers and performers that could have handled that going a little bit off the rails and made it still seem charming. Most people wouldn't have known what to do.
Yeah, I really loved how Lady Gaga handled that. She was showing so much care to this legend. It's like how she was treating Liza Minnelli felt like how the telecast should have been treating a lot of these other legends that it was supposedly paying tribute to. Like there was so much care, so much reverence. So I really appreciated that.
We didn't mention Pulp Fiction, but that was one of the better reunions.
Well, I liked that. I like the idea of it. No, they could have done.
They committed. They were dancing the whole time. They actually committed to that, and I love that.
Remember, they were following. Not only were they following the big event, not exactly right after, but pretty soon after. But they've got the category where they're probably announcing Will Smith. So I'm sure they were way more nervous once they actually walked out than they initially thought they would be. I thought they should have been the other screenplay category because that also won screenplay as well, even though they were both Juno and Pulp Fiction were both original, but I thought that would have made sense. But at least since Francis wasn't there, I felt comfortable with the fact that they presented Best Actor and not, some, the three Disney princesses or something.
The memoriam felt a little weird too, with like it was so far away because there was this big gospel performance happening, and then it was like people were on the screen sort of in the back. I felt like that just wasn't real intimate.
I've never understood directors that think they got to over direct a memoriam. The work has been put in to get the images like you want them, and then you jump back and forth between honoring some people full screen and then some from the side of the stage. And those first 6 or 7 people were all very, very well-known people, and they really couldn't see them all that well over the heads of the choir. Well, we've only got about 2 minutes left. Anything else before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to one thing we haven't really discussed, though we've been discussing the ceremony, is the shifting of those 8 categories to the pre-show. And I feel like with the amount of, anger that caused among those branches and, other artists who wanted to see those celebrated, you got to make it worth it. You got to earn it with the show. And they didn't. Not only did the show not wasn't better for the lack of those categories, it also wasn't shorter. It went over by a half hour, more than a half hour. So it really felt even more disrespectful to have moved those categories in the first place when they really didn't do anything.
Well, and I see in a week when they do the teardown session, which follows any big show at the Motion Picture Academy, the producers are going to say, well, we couldn't anticipate the Will Smith thing and that pushing us over time and all that. The entire Will Smith thing maybe added, and I'm talking about because he gave a much longer speech too, maybe added 7-8 minutes to that 30 that they went over.
Yeah.
At most.
Overall, I liked the ceremony. It's getting really knocked on social media, and I think people just like to be negative these days. I would give it a B.
I enjoyed very much several aspects of it. I just, do even better. Just learn from it, do even better. I would like, Will Packer, I think, is a great producer. I would love to see him come back. I want to see a producer, a set of producers or a producer take over the Oscars like Gil Cates did, do it for a few years, because that's the one and only person, that's the only way they can learn, is to do it and then come back and go, oh, next time I would change this, and this. You get a new one every year, they don't get to learn. Well, thanks everybody. Jump in now, make your Emmy predictions. Grammy predictions are coming up this weekend, and thank you for watching.